She was the one who tried to leave first. Before the fame. Before Wolverine. Before the red carpets and the magazine covers and 27 years of Hugh Jackman telling every camera pointed at him that she was the foundation of everything he had ever built. Before any of it, Deborra-Lee Furness looked at the 25-year-old man sitting across from her and told him the age gap was too significant, that it would create problems that love alone could not solve, that he should find someone whose life was at the same stage as his. He refused. He told her the 13 years between them meant nothing. He told her she was the person he wanted. He proposed within 4 months of their first date. And she said yes, because when someone pursues you with that kind of certainty, when someone dismantles every reasonable objection you have raised with quiet absolute conviction, you start to believe they mean it. For 27 years, she had every reason to believe he did. Deborra-Lee Furness is not a woman who needs introduction through her relationship with Hugh Jackman. She was an established award-winning actress before Hugh Jackman existed in any public conversation whatsoever. She trained at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. She worked in the United States on Falcon Crest before returning to Australia, where she built a reputation as one of the most respected performers in the country. In 1988, she won Best Actress at the Australian Film Critics Circle for her lead role in the film Shame. By the time she was cast as the lead in the 1995 television series Corelli, she was a name that Australian audiences already knew and respected. Hugh Jackman was 25 years old. Corelli was his first professional acting job. He played a prisoner. She played the psychologist assigned to work with him. The rest of the world knows what happened next. But what the world has never fully accounted for is what the 27 years that followed actually cost her. She relocated across the world for his career. She absorbed every tabloid comparison between her aging face and his that ran in newspapers across 3 continents. She defended him publicly against years of speculation about his personal life. Speculation she consistently and quietly dismantled simply by being present and unwavering. She navigated IVF treatments and multiple miscarriages alongside him, processing that grief in the private way her generation of women often did. Not because she was unaffected, but because she had decided certain wounds were hers to carry without turning them into content. When biological options did not produce the outcome they hoped for, they adopted. Their son Oscar arrived in 2000. Their daughter Ava in 2005. Deborra-Lee became a committed advocate for adoption reform in Australia, not as a celebrity cause but as a genuine legislative campaign, one she pursued directly with Australian lawmakers for years, funding it with her own platform and her own conviction. None of that work was connected to Hugh's career. None of it borrowed his name or his audience. It was entirely hers. On their 25th anniversary in 2021, he posted old wedding photographs describing their love as something that had only deepened with time. She read those words. She built her life around them. What happened 14 months later is where the story changes completely. In February 2022, Hugh Jackman began rehearsals for a Broadway revival of The Music Man. His co-star was Sutton Foster, a 2-time Tony Award winner with a reputation that stood entirely on its own merits, one of the most decorated performers in Broadway history. The show ran through January 2023. Nearly a full year of nightly performances, shared press appearances, and the specific intimacy that develops between 2 lead performers who spend every evening on the same stage. According to multiple sources and reporting by US Weekly, the relationship that developed between Hugh and Sutton during that production became what people inside the show described as an open secret. Cast members observed extended closeness between them backstage. Sutton spoke publicly during the show is run about a pre-show ritual the two had developed. Time they set aside each night specifically to talk and connect before going on. She described it warmly. In retrospect, it reads differently than it likely seemed at the time. Sources close to Deborra-Lee indicated she became aware that something had shifted. Her assessment, as relayed through people close to her, was that an emotional connection had developed during the production regardless of whether it had crossed into anything physical while the marriage remained intact. And for someone who had spent 27 years beside one person, the precise definition of that line matters considerably less than most people outside the situation tend to assume. The turning away is the wound. Where someone turns toward is secondary. What makes the timeline of 2023 particularly difficult to absorb is the sequence of events. In April of that year, Hugh posted a public anniversary tribute to Deborra-Lee. In May, they attended the Met Gala together, walking the carpet the way they had for years, presenting the image that had become one of Hollywood's most familiar. For months after that carpet appearance, on September 15, 2023, they released a joint statement announcing their separation after almost 3 decades together. The language of that statement described a shift in their journey and attributed the decision to individual growth. It was language specifically constructed to say as little as possible while sounding considered and mutual. Anyone who has ever been on the receiving end of carefully rehearsed language from someone who has already decided understands precisely what that kind of phrasing conceals. Deborra-Lee said nothing publicly for nearly 2 years after that statement. She attended a film event in May 2024 and when asked what the previous year had taught her, responded simply that she had learned she was strong and resilient. That answer, offered without elaboration, without bitterness, without detail, is the kind of thing a person says when they are still in the middle of surviving something and are not yet ready to name what it actually was. Then, in October 2024, Sutton Foster filed for divorce from her husband of a decade, screenwriter Ted Griffin. In January 2025, Hugh and Sutton were photographed together in Santa Monica, holding hands at dinner. Their relationship was now visible and confirmed. Whatever had existed in the space between friendship and something else during The Music Man was now public. And somewhere in Manhattan, Deborra-Lee Furness was watching all of it. Preparing something, moving quietly and deliberately in a way that would only make complete sense when the full picture finally emerged. She bought the penthouse first. Then she filed. On May 21, 2025, 2 days before filing for divorce, Deborra-Lee Furness paid $1.7 million to acquire sole ownership of the Manhattan penthouse she and Hugh had shared. She did not wait for the asset division process to determine who would keep the property. She moved first, secured it in her own name, and then filed. That sequence does not happen by accident. It reflects legal and financial preparation that takes months, and it tells you everything about the state of mind of a woman who is done being surprised. The divorce was finalized in early June 2025. The marital estate being divided was estimated at $387 million. Accumulated across 27 years that included the entire X-Men franchise, multiple Broadway runs, global endorsement deals, and properties in Manhattan, the Hamptons, Australia, and England. A fortune built during the years Deborra-Lee was beside him, raising their children, relocating across the world for his schedule, providing the stable domestic foundation that allows a person to focus entirely on becoming one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. Within days of filing, she released a statement to the Daily Mail. She wrote that her heart and compassion go out to everyone who has traversed the traumatic journey of betrayal. She wrote that it is a profound wound that cuts deep. She used the word betrayal. Not once, twice. A woman who had waited nearly 2 years to say anything in public, who had chosen her silence with evident care, did not use that word accidentally. She chose it. It was the most precise word available to her. And she placed it at the center of the first real thing she had said since the joint statement that erased her version of events entirely. Meanwhile, Hugh was reportedly telling close friends about a proposal to Sutton Foster, reportedly made on a whim during a New Year's vacation in Costa Rica in January 2026. According to multiple sources, reports suggested he had no intention of signing a prenuptial agreement. His friends, according to Radar Online, were alarmed enough to try to talk him out of what they privately described as total madness. Given the scale of the fortune involved and the speed of what was happening, Hugh's position, as reported, was that a prenup was disrespectful to the relationship. The irony of that reasoning, in the context of what had just concluded, requires no additional commentary. By May 2026, Hugh and Sutton made their debut as a couple at the Met Gala. The same event Deborra-Lee and Hugh had attended together just 3 years earlier. Wedding plans, according to sources, had been paused only because Hugh wanted his children present, and that conversation had not yet been fully resolved. A fierce bidding war for the rights to Deborra-Lee's memoir was reportedly underway by late 2025. Industry insiders described the book as bold and emotional. Sources said she had been keeping detailed personal notes throughout the separation, logging every detail of what she called an ugly roller coaster divorce. She met with a leading publisher in Midtown Manhattan and left the building smiling. She was the one who tried to leave at the beginning. She was the one who raised every reasonable concern and was talked out of each one by a man with nothing to his name except certainty. 27 years later, she is the one writing the book. And this time, nobody is talking her out of it.